Hello and welcome back. This is lesson 13 of Radio 2, and today we'll be continuing with voice and performance. So this is the second out of 6 lessons for this module for voice and performance. And what we'll be looking at today is chapter 6 in Beyond Powerful Radio, performance and formatics. So from page 45 until page 64. Radio is seen as the theater of the mind. I'm sure you must have heard that somewhere. I say it all the time. Radio communication utilizes the theater of the mind, and the people on the radio must talk in pictures. The same principle applies to all material written and produced for on-air use as well. When you listen to radio, so before you knew anything about how radio worked, and you switched on the radio, I'm sure that you've noticed that the talent sounds so spontaneous and natural and easy. It's like they don't prepare, like the words just flow out of them and they just know exactly what to say when they are on air. I'm sure by now, though, you've gotten to realize that this is actually not the case. It really takes years and years of hard work and practice to get to the point where you can call yourself a seasoned professional, and to get to the point where you sound so spontaneous and natural. You also get talent on the other side who seem pained and uncomfortable when things go astray, to the point where they can make you feel uneasy to hear them react a certain way in a situation. Seasoned professional talent always gives the impression that they are in control no matter what. And that's what you want. That's where you want to get to. This skill can be learned. The people you admire have mastered basic techniques that carry them through difficult situations. Their experiences, their successes as well as their failures, are what make them so adept now. You can't avoid some of these unpredictable aspects of the business, especially in radio, but you can learn reliable techniques to improve your show. You can escape certain traps by practicing a few elementary performance points. And there are small things that you can self-correct should the show start taking a turn for the worse. Before we get into these points, some presenters may view formatics as restrictive, but the audience likes the structure of station formatics. It's there for a reason. Listeners want to know to whom they are listening, okay? Honor presenters must learn to be creative within the confines of formatics. Each format and station has a slightly different structure. They all have one thing in common, though. Your listener should never feel the pressure you feel to execute formatics correctly. Everything is supposed to flow without the listener picking up that certain things have been done in a certain structure. Performance points are really important for a radio show. So looking at these 10, the first one, pick topics which you really care about, okay? A great talent or personality can make selecting a so far interesting. Unfortunately, if you are a boring person, you could ruin a conversation about the most interesting thing. So make sure that you are interested in what you're speaking about, because if you are interested, you will make it interesting, which is what you want. Number 2 there, use a strong show opening or a monologue. Be sure to do the following things. So focus the topic, engage the audience by forming a question, state your opinion or position on a talkable subject, explain your view through example experiences or through storytelling. Don't read on air, okay? So try not to read like a whole page of speeches and things like that, because you shouldn't be sounding like you're reading. And unfortunately, it's something that can happen quite easily, that people can pick up that you are reading. Third one, never be boring. So this is probably the most important one, okay? One of the most important things you can do is never be boring. If you have a boring guest, get rid of them, okay? It's as simple as that. If your guest is so boring that you kind of zone out, imagine how the listener is feeling, okay? So try a few calculated direct questions to see if that can't raise the energy in the room. If that doesn't help, dismiss the guest, get out of the interview. And if it's something that you don't feel comfortable with, have a prearranged signal with your producer so that your producer can help you get out of it. Remember, it's your on-air product. You need to protect your on-air product. The same with the other side of it. If the guest is great and super entertaining, keep him or her with you longer. Number 4, they don't take calls just because they're there. So guests and calls are simply tools for the host to make use of for a better show, okay? Especially if you are a reactor, something which we will talk about next week. There are certain personalities that work better when they're reacting to what other people are saying. So in that case, normally callers are brought in for the presenter to react to, okay? So then it forms part of your show. But people will much rather listen to a strong personality than a boring guest that you are putting on air now. Only use a caller if they're going to enhance your show at the end of the day. Number 5, what if an interview or a topic goes wrong? This happens. Sometimes you ask the wrong question, or you don't frame your talkable topic or engaging question well. If you're not getting the response that you want, perhaps it's time to change the story or the example a little, or to just rephrase the question. Don't be afraid to reset the topic going into or coming back from a break. As long as you add something new, just don't repeat the exact topic, okay? Number 6, you can change your mind. Your opinion may change. Don't be afraid to change your opinion if more facts become available, or if a caller or a guest persuades you with a strong argument. Also, don't stick to your guns if you're wrong. Remember to always tell the truth and leave your ego at home. You're not expected to know the facts about everything at all times, okay? You're also only human. Number 7, take risks on air. This is also a really important point for me, okay? So never be boring and take risks on air. A lot of what you can get away with will a lot of the times depend on your relationship with management. A lot of it also depends on your level of success, obviously. For me as a manager, I will let you get away with a lot more if you are already established and you're already successful. If you were just starting out and you try and do something that I don't agree with, I'm going to take you on about it because you haven't been successful enough and on air enough, long enough to be able to try stunts like that yet. It's just the thing that proven personalities can get away with much more than an unproven talent or a new arrival. Do keep in mind, though, that if you are going into unconventional territory or gray areas, it's better to get permission from your boss before doing it. You might hear people saying that it's easier to beg for forgiveness than to ask permission. I think that depends. Trust your gut instincts here, but don't hold yourself back from potentially powerful moments, okay? So sometimes you have to make the decision for yourself, which way you think will be best to go. Live radio is a live experience. It's exactly that. So, you don't always have time to ask these questions. Number 8 there is use your off switch, also very important. Jay Albright said that master the use of the most difficult piece of equipment in the control room, and that is the off switch on your microphone. Practice moderation. Learn to recognize when a bit is over and stop talking at that point, okay? Don't continue past that. Number 9, the day you wish you'd stayed in bed. Not every show is going to be your best show, okay? You are going to have shows that are going to be difficult. You will have difficult days. Sometimes your rhythm is just off. When you've had one of these shows, though, it's important to self-analyze. So to look for an identifiable reason why the show didn't work today. Is it a case of I didn't sleep enough? Maybe I was hungry. I didn't prep long enough or in depth enough, or did I just do a poor job at it? So now I can sit and pick it apart over and over and beat myself up about it and do an air check and try and figure out where the mistakes and the things came in, or I can simply let it go and make sure that I have a better day tomorrow. Remember, I've said this before, your regular listeners are more prone to forgiving your mistakes. So if you have one bad show, they will forgive you and they'll tune in again tomorrow. Just make sure that you give them a better show tomorrow. Also, you don't know. Tomorrow someone might tune in who hasn't tuned in before and they haven't heard your bad show before, so they wouldn't know anything about it. Forgive yourself and move on. Number 10 there, Treat the staff you work with respectfully, please. The station staff can help you or sabotage you in a million ways, okay? A miserable team might cost you more than you think. Please remember that. So those are the performance points. I want you to now turn to page 58 for me so that we can quickly go through the formatic tips from consultant Tommy Kramer before we get into formatics. It varies the way everything is done. The listener wants consistency, but not predictability. Even if positioning, phrases, or branding should require that things be said in the same words all the time, the talent can still vary the inflection of the words. Repetition becomes boring quickly and is also an indicator of the deadly automatic pilot mentality that can bring down a talent or a station fast. Do your part. Keep the talent energized by pointing out good examples when they occur, or freshening things up that may have become tired sounding. As engaging the audience at the end of the day is the most important part of everything, there's a lot of things you can do to make sure that your formatics are correct without boxing yourself in. So if we start looking at those, the first would be to pull the listener into the radio with you. Stay away from things like it's 20 degrees out there, because what you're doing is you're telling me, the listener, that we're not in the same room, that we're somewhere else. So you're pushing me away in essence because you're breaking that bond between us right now. It's the same thing as saying you guys, okay? So as I've mentioned, it's one-on-one. You're talking to the listener here. In the listener's head, they're here with you. So stay away from words like out there, over in wherever. So over in Pretoria, things like that. Avoid saying anything that can push the listener away or that might make it seem that they're not here with you. Sell the benefit. Always sell the benefit of a show or a station. What is the benefit in me listening to you right now? Okay, so always make sure that you give the listeners a reason to listen. And then what is more effective? Me giving you a full telephone number or me just saying, give me a shout? My worst is when they give the time, when a presenter gives the time and they say, it's just gone 5 minutes past 11 o'clock here on whatever the radio station's name is. Where in your life have you heard anyone speak like that in real life? If I ask you, what is the time right now? And yeah, you take your watch and you go, oh, it's just gone 38 minutes past 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Like, no one speaks like that. You're going to say it's 20 to 3. Okay, or it's 22 minutes to 3 if you really want to go into details, things like that. What you need to realize is you need to talk on air the way you would in person, okay? The way you would in real life. Why? Because we want to stay connected to our listeners. So tell me about something. Don't read it to me, okay? Let your language and the manner of you speaking pull me into your radio station. Because if you read the whole story to me, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to zonk out. Then you've lost me. Then there's a thing called the rule of one. Do one thing per break. And this is not the normal station formatic things. This is one thought, okay, that you're going to put into this break. So don't bring 10 different things that you want to talk about, because if my friend comes to me and asks me what the show is about, I'm probably not going to have an idea of, or I'm going to ramble bits and pieces of certain things. Stick to one thought process. Then remember who your target audience is. Speak to your target audience. Say things that'll be of interest to him or her. It doesn't help you are on a youth radio station and you speak about all the different types of old age homes. They're not going to care because they're not there yet. Do promote what's coming up, especially if it's big things, okay? So promote things that will make your listeners tune in. But on that same note, don't lie about when it is, okay? So instead of coming up in a few minutes, I have this giveaway, rather say, in this hour, I'm going to have this coming up. Because if I'm on my way to a meeting and I'm 15 minutes out and you don't mention anything in that 15 minutes, I'm going to get annoyed. I've had that experience before as a listener where they mentioned a specific article, I can't even remember what it was, that they wanted to talk about. And I stayed listening to try and hear who it was. I stayed listening on air because I wanted to actually hear the article, and the article just didn't come by the time I needed to leave. So I was quite annoyed at that point. And that's me who understands how radio works. Okay, so I can just imagine how the listener would feel if something like that happens. So promote ahead, but be truthful. Don't tell the listener what to think. This is one that I think you might agree is very annoying, very irritating. If someone tells you what you're thinking, instead of going something like, "You'll love this one," rather just say something like, "This is one I love. Tell me what you think." Tell the dream first before you give the information. So this has got to do with emotions, okay? Help me see why I want to invest in something before I have to hear everything that goes into how I need to do it. Sell me on the why first, and then you'll get me on the how. If you don't make me want what's on offer, then there's absolutely no reason why I'm going to care about all the technical information behind it. And then if you were in my live class where Andy spoke in, you'd hear that she said she always knows how to get out of a link. Okay, so she'll always write down the ending of the link, so how she would get out of it before going into it. At the same time, you need to know how you're getting started. You can't just be babbling off for 5 minutes before you get into the crux of your story. Understand you're in, okay? Know what your body is, and then get your out, and then get out of there. So understand, have a roadmap. That's something that's so important. And if you can manage that, there's no reason why you shouldn't have short, to the point, concise, great links. Now, with regards to phone calls, okay, learn how to edit them quite quickly. Keep unnecessary parts out of them. The whole idea with radio is to keep it short and to the point. So the same with your phone calls, get to the point. I don't care about how your day was and all that other jazz. I want to see why it is that you are on air. Why did they put you on air? What opinion do you have? It might help to have formatics on callers, for callers rather. So how Ryan Seacrest's show used to do it is each caller would be identified by name and place. And after they make their point, they get a brief and sincere acknowledgement of their call, and that's it. So no one needs to feel awkward or scared to call in, because you understand that this is what's going to be expected of me, okay? So expectation versus reality is met. Reset the stage. Remember that not everyone will be listening to your whole show throughout, okay? So every a couple of minutes, whether it is every 15 minutes, just give a brief info about what it is that you're talking about, so a listener that's just tuning in won't feel left out and perhaps switch to a different station at that point. And then that's something that's quite an annoying habit is something like, we're going to take a quick break. I'll be back with you after this. That is such a crutch. It's not even funny. And also the word break comes from TV, okay? It's not a radio term. If you say that we're taking a break, it means that the listener can now also take a break from listening to your station at that point. There's many other ways of saying it. And this is one of those things that people tend to practice. When I started teaching brand new presenters, this is the thing that I told them to focus on, is to focus on how to get out of a link. Because if you know how to get out of a link, you won't need to say things like, let's quickly take a break, or I'll be back right after this, or things like that, okay? Because those are all crutches that you need to get rid of as soon as possible. This is where that professionalism comes in. The mark of a professional is someone who has the ability to make every word their own. And then don't panic if you need a moment. Have you ever heard someone on air you can literally hear when they're in a panic mode and they just start yammering on about nothing really, just purely because they might have been told to keep the media running, so to keep the on-air momentum going, because something might have gone wrong off air. So it might have been one of those, we can't have dead air right now, the song isn't playing, so I just need to keep talking until we can figure something out moments. Don't be afraid of a few seconds of dead air, okay? As much as you don't want minutes of this stuff, as a listener, we will all understand if something happens and there's a second or two break. where you needed to pause and collect your thoughts. These things do happen, okay? Sometimes on the other side of it, silence can also be used as a tool, especially if you had a very powerful message that you just conveyed. You might want to take a second or two just to grab the listener's attention again. Because if you think about it, nothing grabs a listener's attention as quickly as dead air does. If you're listening to the radio and it just switches off, immediately you tune in. So content or performance plus formatics equals ratings equals listeners. There are a couple of other basic things that you can do that might help you make a difference at the end of the day. And it's things like, before a break, remember to tease about what's coming up, or reset your talkable topic or engagement question. Because if you throw out a teaser of a subject or something that I might really want to listen to, I'm definitely going to tune in for that next 15 minutes until I can hear that segment. Use cliffhangers, okay? Involve your audience. Remember to briefly reset your topic for listeners who haven't been listening and who just tuned in, okay? So they want to know who they're listening to. So they want to know what your name is. They want to know what topic it is that you're talking about. Do a time check if it's relevant, if it's a relevant time of the day. So at the beginning, when you work on formatics, it might seem like a struggle and it might seem like a crutch and the set things that you have to do. The more you practice, the easier it'll become to simply work those in. And with those formatics in mind, remember to get to the point when you speak. Like I've said, as we've mentioned, like a good storyteller, a story has a beginning, a story has a middle, and an end, okay? Albeit most of the time the story ends with the end, it's still an ending. So your story needs to have a good beginning, a powerful beginning, a middle, and an end into such a way that you can get out of the link easily. Be concise, conserve your words. If you can say something in 10 words, why would you use 20? Wasted words will waste time and attention of the listeners. This is something that comes with practice. This is where you need to start practicing in front of the mirror. So this is where explaining your day to yourself comes in. So every day, all you do is you stand in front of the mirror for a minute and tell yourself what your day was like, literally in that minute. So time yourself. Make sure you can do it within a minute. Because that's how you will get into the habit of using less words. Time is 100% of the essence. When it comes to looking at production pieces specifically, a script or a production piece should never be longer than 60 seconds, okay? It'll be 60 seconds or less, or on average 30 seconds, okay? An average ad is 30 seconds. Then you get those 45ers, and then you get max a minute. So you could have the greatest, the most creative piece of production running, and after 60 seconds, you've lost your audience. You might have even lost them earlier, okay? So timing is important with production pieces. Your words are important. The shorter, the better. Tell your story. Talk in pictures. If I close my eyes, I should be able to imagine everything that you are saying in detail. It's like when you read a good book, okay? And they describe the details to you so perfectly that you can literally see it. That's what you should be able to do. So work with an imagination, okay? And here you will use things like your descriptive words, production elements, so sound effects, things like that. More than one voice if necessary, if you have an additional voiceover or character voice. Why do we do that? Because straightforward, single, dry voiceovers are the most annoying thing ever, and they have the highest tune-out factor. If you are busy producing an audio piece, use a hook at the beginning, okay? Just like it sounds, it must be something that's creative and clever and grabs the listener's attention from the beginning. So it hooks you in before they can mentally tune out and miss the rest of your piece. Okay, you have like 6 or 7 seconds to hook them in. So it's literally a case of, as it starts off, you need to hook them. How can we create that hook? Focus on the topic that you will be talking of. Engage with the audience. State your opinion or your position on a talkable topic. Explain your view and your experience through storytelling. So this is, again, storytelling. And then at the end of it, use a kicker. Okay, wrap it up in such a way that you leave the listener with something, whether it's a message that stays with them, whether it's something that amuses them, whether you make them laugh, whether you surprise them, leave them with something. So recorded or produced announcements must start and end with the station. Okay, if you stop the music for a recorded announcement, it needs to identify the station. And then make sure you use production elements. So including background music, sound effects, audio sound clips that are under 10 seconds. Okay, when you want to produce powerful productions. So carrying on with this, with production pieces, and I'll show you now why it's so important, what you're going to be doing for me. So these things are all very important right now. Music is supposed to set the scene, okay, as a background does in a play. So for example, and yes, it is an extreme example, but you wouldn't have the shower scene music from the movie Psycho as the background for a public service announcement for the national parks. It's just not appropriate. So you need to make certain that your music fits the mood of your script. Also avoid music beds that have any singing or hot solos or things in them, okay? Or talking or anything like that. Another voice or a prominent instrument will immediately distract me as the listener, and I'll start concentrating on that instead of what it is that you're saying. So when you use a music bed, make sure it's one that has nothing that really stands out about it. Make sure it's just a simple instrumental. Sound effects are important for that theater of the mind effect that we're looking for. So the voiceover is, at the end of the day, the star of the show. So be careful that you only use sound effects for you only use well-timed and well-placed sound effects, and that it isn't one of those cases where the DJ takes over the choir that's singing in church. I don't know if you've seen that little thing going around, but the sound effects here isn't why we're listening to it, okay? There's still a story to be told, and that's why we're actually listening. When it comes to scripts, there are 2 different types of scripts that I'm going to be showing you. The first is the 2-person script, and the second is sound clips. So this is the format. This is an example of a 2-person script, okay? So it's where there are literally 2 voices who are speaking, advertising whatever it is. So this is a 2-person script, which you've probably heard on radio a lot. And then the second one is a sound clips one. It's one that uses a lot more sound bites for emphasis and for entertainment. So this one specifically is a Krispy Kreme donut advertisement. And here you can see there are a lot of sound clips. There's a sound clip where Homer Simpson says, "Donuts, is there anything they can't do for you or they can't do?" And then the announcer speaks. Then there's another sound clip that says, "Whoa, he made the international sign of the donut." And then the announcer says something. Then the sound clip of Tommy Lee's voice, "What are you doing? Sprinkles on top, will you?" And then the announcer, and then another sound clip of Homer Simpson saying, "Donut? No thanks, got any fruit? Purple is a fruit." And then the announcer once again. Okay, so it's just, it's different effects for different types of advertisements or production pieces. So in summary, because I know I put a lot of different types of elements onto you right now, but what is important to remember is radio communication utilizes the theater of the mind, okay? And the people on the radio must talk in pictures. I need to be able to close my eyes and understand what it is that you are explaining to me, or see what it is that you are showing me. The same principle applies to all material written and produced for on-air use as well. So whether it's an ad, whether it's a content or a production piece that's been recorded, or whether it's the presenter, the theater of the mind idea is always there. Radio should always talk in pictures. When you listen to the radio, you will notice there's talent that sounds spontaneous, natural and easy, as I've mentioned. But then on the other side of that, there will also be talent who seems pained and uncomfortable when things go astray. And they make you feel uneasy, okay, to hear them react to a situation that way. So you, as someone training to be a professional talent, need to make sure that you are always giving off the impression that you are in control no matter what. Whether you actually are in control or not is not something that I, as the listener, need to know. You just need to sound and give me the impression that you are. This is a skill that can be learned by practicing the elementary performance point that we mentioned. Pick topics you really care about, use a strong show opening, or use a strong opening, never be boring, don't take calls just because they're there. What will you do? How will you handle if a situation or a topic goes wrong? Make sure that you're in control then. Make sure that that doesn't throw you. Remember that you can change your mind if you have an opinion about something. Take a risk on air. Use your off switch, so don't just keep talking. If you had an off day today, remember tomorrow is a new day, and treat the staff you work with respect. And then some talent may view formatics as restrictive, but the audience likes the structure of the station formatics. You might be one of those presenters eventually who might feel that formatics is restricting you a little bit on air, but the whole idea is for you to learn how to be creative within the confines of the formatics, because the formatics are there for a reason. They're there for the listener, because a listener wants to know to whom they are listening. And with that said, what you're going to be doing for me for homework, hence why we had all those production element tools, is you will be making an ad for me, okay? A 30-second, straightforward. What you need to do is you need to copyright and script it. You need to produce it. You need to voice it, engineer it, and mix a 30-second ad against gender-based violence. This ad you will send to me, and we will play them in our next live class. And you can do this either on your own or in a group. This means you have a week to send this to me, okay? So next Monday, I want your ad. And with that being said, that brings us to the end of this lesson today. I'm saying goodbye until the next one. Good luck with the creation of your ad, and I look forward to hearing them. Bye.